Photo filters are bits of glass. The least you'd expect is for it to do its job of filtering out stuff, right? ND filters are supposed to block light out, and that's useful for a number of different applications, video being one of them, long exposure photography. Then you've got graduated ND filters for bringing down the exposure of the sky. But it's not always so simple to darken your exposure and not get a shady color cast. To make something that's so dark to block light out but still lets them in without having some colour bias is actually quite difficult. It's fine for shades, but a bit shady, not so tasty for ND filters because you want your colours looking exactly as you saw them. Even though it's got neutral in the name, quite often what you get is not quite so neutral. The problem is quite often worse with variable NDs, and it's not necessarily a case of all cheap filters give colour cast. Sometimes it's the expensive ones too. There's the Lee Big Stopper, which could be a really good name for anybody called Lee who's a goalkeeper. But this is the creme de la creme of ND filters. But it also adds a big ass blue cast to your photo too. But it's to be expected that there are some trade-offs when there's so much stopping power. Well, that's all nice and well, but you still have to deal with the color cast issue, right? Now, the simplest, easiest, most obvious thing to do is to buy an ND filter that doesn't have a color cast.
Conveniently, Nisi, the sponsor of this video, has a filter worth looking at.
Yes, this is called the True Color because the colors are true and there are no color casts. It is true. The color. There's no casts. Filter on looks as close to filter off as you could want. It's nice because I like the practicalities of variable NDs, but I've not been that keen on using them for photos because of some issues with variable NDs such as color casts. As you can see with one of the filters that I own right here, from Syrup, you can see the color cast there, which looks like they've probably applied syrup to the front of the ND filter. Probably not. But it's not just with trees, it's also very important that skin colors are not made to look off once you've put your filter on your lens.
But look, if you've already got an ND filter that serves up a healthy dose of color cast, there are fixes.
Another thing you can do is set the camera to auto white balance, but sometimes it still doesn't work. I mean, with the Lee Big Stopper, it still looks blue. It's such a stopper of epic proportions that even stops your auto white balance. Wow. Another thing you could do is to set a custom white balance when you've got your filter on to pick out neutral grey within the scene, or you could use one of these, but the trouble is when you've got this dark bit of glass in front of your lens, sometimes it's hard to pick out the neutral grey within your scene.
And if you didn't try to do anything about it before taking the shot, there are some solutions afterwards.
With your software, either Lightroom or Photoshop, you can adjust those sliders, you know, the white balance sliders, or use that little white balance dropper thing. You know, you select a neutral grey within the scene, you use a little dropper. Drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's grey and hot. But just remember to shoot raw if you're expecting colour cast, yeah? Because once it's cooked, it's a lot more difficult to change the recipe, as the famous saying goes.
It's just that some of these solutions can become a bit tedious when you're taking lots of shots with filters.
Ipso facto, yes, the easiest, the best solution is to just use an ND filter with minimal or no colour cast at all, like this one. Now, as I said once or twice before, this video is sponsored by Nisi, hence why I'm showing this in this video, but this is a pretty cool filter which I did want to try out. Apart from using it for landscape photos, I want to be using this for video, for vlogging, for filming myself, so I'll just plonk it on. Sometimes I take off the filter and then put it on, and I don't want to have to change the white balance every time I remove and put the filter on.
Currently, I use a Tiffin variable ND filter because at the time it seemed to offer low color cast, but even that in comparison is more than what you get with the Nisi True Color.
Now, there's another neat thing about this Nisi that is a bit of a problem on other variable NDs. Other variable NDs, when you get to maximum or past maximum, they crisscross, and there's nothing you can do to fix it for photos or video unless you want to spend a lot of time in Photoshop. The Nisi, when you get to maximum, no crisscross, which is great. In fact, there's a stop. There's a hard stop. Other variable NDs, you can just keep going round and round and round. You could quite easily go a bit too far. When I've got the camera held up like that, I can't always check to see if I've gone too far on the fader. I can just feel it like that. That's the max. There we are. That's pretty much all I can say about a variable ND filter. Hope that was useful. Don't know why I looked at the light. Was that good? Oh, thank you very much. Okay, there we are. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna have some honey now. Cheers. Subscribe. Oh man.